Click the link up above to watch the first part of this episode. Meet the Bernie Sanders fans who say they will never support Joe Biden, by Ebony Bowden. Senator Bernie Sanders' most loyal followers are finally splitting with the socialist icon, telling the Post they will never endorse former Veep Joe Biden even as the Vermont senator pleads for them to get on board. He's not a socialist icon, he's a democratic socialist icon. He's not even really a leftist if you look at the rest of the world's politics. I have to correct it every time I see the press call Bernie a socialist. It's just propaganda. New York members of the Young Democratic Socialists of America, the campus-based section of the Democratic Socialists movement, say they are disappointed that Sanders endorsed Biden earlier this month and are unlikely to vote for him in November. Right now, I'm leaning towards not voting for Joe Biden, but there's a lot of time between now and November, said Alex Pelletieri, 19, a founding member of Hunter College's YDSA chapter. If the election were held tomorrow, I wouldn't vote for him. I don't think simply running against Donald Trump makes you a progressive. You have to have that record, he continued. Facing an enthusiasm problem with young voters, Biden's campaign is aggressively courting Sanders' base, adopting some of his policies, including a student debt cancellation plan and free public college. But if you look into these, they're weak tea, and he has no intention of actually pushing them through. But young social democrats say Biden's policies don't go far enough and feel his attempts to win their support after he mocked Sanders' socialist roots on the campaign trail are insincere. No DSA chapter that I think is worth its salt will endorse Biden, and the reason for that is because we have fundamental disagreements with the Democratic Party, adds Garrison Grogan, 22, a founding member at Columbia University's YDSA. With Sanders out of the 2020 presidential race, I'd say that's wishful thinking. Sanders is not really out of the race. Unless his name stops appearing on the ballot, he's not out of the race. His followers say their role now is to keep advocating the policies he championed, including a Green New Deal and Medicare for All, while also pushing Biden to support them. I think it would be a disastrous thing for the socialist left to campaign for Biden, said Emmeline Bennett, 22, also a founder of Columbia's YDSA chapter. Our political vision is based on breaking with this neoliberal status quo that he is representative of, she added, saying she will vote for Green Party candidate Howie Hawkins, not Biden. That's also what I'm thinking I'm going to do. I think I'm going to vote for Howie Hawkins. I think what we should be doing is acting as a continual source of pressure on Biden and mainstream Democrats so these issues stay on the table, Bennett said. Prominent progressives and democratic socialists are using their influence as a bargaining chip in this endorsement cycle. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on Wednesday announced she would vote for Biden only after having policy discussions with his campaign to see if they shared common ground. Again, that's weak tea. You have the leverage only if you say you will not endorse or vote for Biden. You have to see the changes first. Grogan described feeling like being between a rock and a hard place, saying he didn't want Trump to be reelected, but didn't want progressives to give up the power that Sanders' movement amassed. We don't want to give explicit support to Joe Biden because we think it gives away any negotiating power we have. And then on the other hand, of course, we don't want people to vote for Trump, he said. While all three Big Apple socialists said they weren't planning to vote for Biden, they said they would never shame anyone else who did. They're not Big Apple socialists, they're Big Apple democratic socialists. Some people are planning to reluctantly vote for Biden, Bennett said of some of her college friends. I'd like to ask them what good you think that's going to do. It is an individual decision, and I'm not going to criticize people who are going to vote for Biden because it's a problem with the terrible choices this system has given us. It's not a problem with them, she continued. No, you can't in good conscience vote for a corporate Democrat. You just can't, especially not a racist rapist like Biden. If you vote for evil, it makes you evil. If you're not evil, at least you have to admit you're doing something evil. For Pelletieri, the fight for progressive ideals like racial justice and college for all will continue even with Trump out of the White House. I think capitalism is a problem that created Donald Trump. It's not like if we defeat Donald Trump, everything is fine and we can go back to normal. There will still be a lot of work to do, he said. I submit that the work will be a lot more difficult if you have a neoliberal sock puppet in the White House. We need massive labor strikes and massive protests, including student protests. I'd say those are a lot more likely to get started with Trump in the White House than some neoliberal sock puppet. The Bernie or bust movement all along has advocated for putting your vote where your mouth is. This is when push comes to shove. Now it's time to push and shove. If you agree, then join me in doing everything you can to fight this vote-shaming bullshit. We need to shame the shamers. We need to make it clear to the comfy diehard Dems of all ages and all races and all walks of life that friends don't let friends vote for corporate sock puppets.